Have you ever felt like life is working against you? Doors slam shut, opportunities vanish, and nothing seems to align. What if I told you that those frustrations and obstacles aren't random, but divine messages trying to guide you? What if, hidden in the chaos of your daily life, there are whispers from a higher power calling you to a purpose greater than you can imagine? As we journey through this, I want to hear from you. Your comments will help me understand what resonates with your heart and how these truths impact your life. So, don't hold back, let me know your thoughts below. Imagine the noise of daily life, endless notifications, deadlines, and the relentless hum of busyness. Yet in that noise, there's a still, small voice like the whisper Elijah heard on Mount Horeb. Have you paused long enough to hear it? And if this resonates with you, subscribing isn't just for me, it's for you. It means you won't miss these transformative lessons that could be the key to your next step. Then there are the roadblocks, the moments when life says no. What if they're not setbacks but divine interventions, like Balaam's angel blocking him from disaster? Have you ever considered that a missed opportunity might be a blessing in disguise? If you find this revelation eye-opening, give it a like. It lets me know this message is reaching the right hearts and minds. So stay with me as we unravel these mysteries and discover the divine guidance hidden in plain sight. Together we'll navigate these challenges with faith and purpose. Share this with someone who needs it, and let's start this life-changing journey. You're here for a reason, don't ignore the call. Amid the relentless noise of modern life, have you ever felt the faintest whisper tugging at your spirit? A fleeting moment where everything around you seems to pause, just long enough for you to wonder if there's something greater trying to reach you. That whisper isn't your imagination, it's the voice of God gently breaking through the chaos. This is not the voice that thunders or demands, it's the one that waits patiently, inviting you into stillness. Think about Elijah standing on Mount Horeb. He was a prophet of great faith, yet even he expected God's arrival in grand, awe-inspiring ways. He stood amidst the fury of a powerful wind, the trembling of an earthquake, and the consuming blaze of fire. But God wasn't in any of these mighty acts. Instead, he came in a gentle whisper, a soft, quiet presence that carried the fullness of his power and love. Elijah had to stop, listen, and attune his spirit to recognize it. Now consider your own life. How many times do we demand God to show himself in ways we can't possibly miss? A sign in the sky, a miracle that silences all doubts, or an undeniable display of divine intervention. Yet when God speaks, it's often in the stillness, the quiet moments we overlook. The problem is that in today's world, quiet is almost impossible to find. Every waking hour is filled with distractions. The ping of notifications demands your attention, the endless tasks and deadlines pull you in 10 directions at once. And even when you find a rare moment of peace, the noise of your own mind fills the silence. In this cacophony, how can you possibly hear the voice of God? Here's the startling truth. That whisper you've dismissed as a fleeting thought or intuition might be the very thing you've been praying for. A sudden feeling to reach out to someone you haven't spoken to in years. A subtle nudge to take a different path home. A wave of peace washing over you in the middle of an otherwise chaotic day. These aren't coincidences, they're moments of divine communication. But here's where most of us go wrong. We wait for the wind, the earthquake, and the fire. We expect God to shout above the noise instead of realizing he's inviting us to step away from it. And so we miss him. We miss the gentle call to slow down, to pay attention, to align ourselves with his purpose for us. The way forward is simple but not easy. You have to create space for the whisper. This doesn't mean renouncing all worldly things or retreating to a monastery. It means finding intentional moments in your day to quiet the noise. Start small. Take 5 minutes each morning to sit in silence without distractions. No phone, no music, no agenda, just you and God. When the whisper comes, don't dismiss it. Write it down. Reflect on it. Ask God to confirm what he's trying to tell you. Often the nudge to call someone could lead to a conversation that changes both your lives. The sudden clarity about a decision you've been wrestling with could open doors you never imagined. But there's a trap you must avoid. Don't expect every whisper to come with immediate clarity. Sometimes the message is simply to wait, to trust, or to draw nearer to Him. Elijah's experience teaches us that it's not about what we want to hear, it's about learning to recognize His presence in whatever form it takes. In daily life, this might mean turning down opportunities that feel exciting but lack peace. It might mean staying still when everything in you wants to rush ahead. It might even mean walking away from something good to make room for something better that you can't yet see. These moments are hard because they require faith that the whisper is enough. When you begin to listen, truly listen, you'll find that God's voice has been guiding you all along. The decisions you agonized over become clearer. The moments you thought were coincidences reveal their purpose, and the restlessness you've carried turns into a deep, unshakable peace. So the next time you feel that whisper, pause, take a breath. Turn off the noise, even if just for a moment. Because in that whisper lies the answer you've been seeking, the direction you've been longing for, and the presence of the one who knows you better than you know yourself. The whisper is His way of reminding you that you're never alone, even when the world feels like chaos. Will you listen? Life often feels like a series of doors you're desperate to walk through, only to find them slammed shut. The job you were sure you'd get, the relationship you thought was the one, the opportunity that seemed perfectly aligned with your dreams, all gone in an instant. Frustration rises and the question inevitably follows, why me? But what if those roadblocks aren't there to punish you but to protect you? Imagine Balaam, a man with power and ambition, setting out on a path he believed was right. He was determined, focused, convinced he was doing what needed to be done. Yet an angel of the Lord stood in his way, unseen by him but not by his donkey. The donkey veered off the road, crushed Balaam's foot against a wall, and finally stopped altogether, refusing to move forward. Balaam, consumed by anger, lashed out, unaware that his faithful animal had just saved his life. How often are we like Balaam, charging forward on paths we think are best, blind to the dangers ahead? It's only in hindsight, sometimes years later, that we realize those closed doors and sudden detours were divine interventions. Picture this in your own life. You lose a job and spiral into despair, only to find that 6 months later, a better opportunity appears, one that aligns more closely with your passions and values. Or maybe a relationship ends, leaving you heartbroken, but it frees you to meet someone who loves and respects you in ways you never thought possible. The mistake we make is resisting these roadblocks. We see them as barriers instead of blessings. We pound on the closed doors, demanding they open rather than pausing to ask, what are you protecting me from, Lord? Here's a truth that's both sobering and freeing. God sees what you cannot. He sees the path beyond the bend, the dangers hidden in the shadows, and the greater blessings waiting ahead. What feels like rejection to you might be His redirection. But here's where the lesson deepens. God doesn't just place obstacles in your way, He also sends guides to help you navigate them. These guides might be people, a mentor who advises you to take a different path, a friend who offers wisdom at just the right moment, or even a stranger whose words resonate deeply with your soul. Sometimes the guides come as inner convictions, a persistent feeling that something isn't right, urging you to stop and reevaluate. Yet, in our stubbornness, we often ignore these signs. Like Balaam, we push forward, convinced we know better, only to find ourselves stuck, wounded, or lost. The key is surrender. Instead of fighting the roadblocks, take a step back, pray, reflect. Ask God, what are you trying to teach me? What are you saving me from? This act of surrender is not easy. It requires humility to admit that you don't have all the answers. It demands faith to trust in a plan you can't yet see. But it's in this surrender that transformation happens. Consider the people who seem to navigate life's challenges with grace. It's not because they don't face roadblocks, it's because they've learned to see them as opportunities for growth. They've learned to pause, listen, and trust. They've learned that when God says no, it's because He's preparing a better yes. In your daily life, practice this perspective. When something doesn't go your way, resist the urge to react with frustration or despair. Instead, take a moment to pause and pray. Look for the guides God has placed around you. It might be the wise counsel of a trusted friend or an unexpected opportunity that redirects your focus. And remember this, the roadblocks are not there to defeat you, but to redirect you. They are a sign that God is actively involved in your life, shaping your journey according to His perfect plan. The more you fight them, the more you prolong the struggle. The sooner you surrender, the sooner you'll find peace. So the next time you face a closed door, remember Balaam. Remember the angel on the path and the donkey that saw what he couldn't. And instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "What are you protecting me from, Lord?" Because behind every roadblock lies a blessing waiting for you to trust and step into it. Life is full of obstacles that seem to arrive at the worst possible moments. A job you counted on suddenly disappears. A relationship you believed was forever ends abruptly. Plans meticulously made unravel, leaving you frustrated, angry, or lost. But what if these disruptions aren't random? What if they are deliberate interventions meant to save you from unseen dangers? Consider the story of Balaam in the Bible, Numbers 22:21-33. Balaam set out on a journey driven by his own agenda, disregarding God's will. Along the way, an angel of the Lord blocked his path, not to harm him, but to protect him. Strangely, Balaam didn't see the angel, but his donkey did. The animal stopped, veered off the road, and even crushed Balaam's foot against a wall to prevent him from moving forward. Balaam, blinded by his frustration and anger, lashed out of the donkey. Only later did he realize the truth. The roadblock was his salvation. This story holds a powerful lesson for all of us. In moments of resistance, we're often like Balaam, so focused on our own plans and desires that we fail to see the bigger picture. We interpret closed doors as failures or punishments, not as divine redirection. But what if that lost job was God's way of steering you toward a career that aligns with your true purpose? What if that broken relationship was His way of freeing you for a healthier, more fulfilling connection? The mistake many of us make is fighting the roadblocks. We push harder, resist longer, and exhaust ourselves trying to force our way through obstacles that are there for our protection. It's like driving toward a washed-out bridge and ignoring every warning sign because we're too determined to reach our destination. The irony is that our persistence only prolongs our suffering. Instead of fighting, what if you paused and asked a simple question, "Lord, what are you trying to show me?" This shift in perspective changes everything. Suddenly the obstacle isn't just an inconvenience, it's an opportunity for reflection, growth, and redirection. In your daily life, these roadblocks might take many forms. Perhaps a business deal falls through and you're left scrambling to pick up the pieces. Or maybe a project you've poured your heart into fails to gain traction. Instead of immediately reacting with frustration, try to look deeper. Ask yourself, is this God's way of saving me from something I can't yet see? Is He redirecting me towards something better, something more aligned with His purpose for me? Sometimes God's guidance comes in subtle ways, a persistent feeling of unease about a decision, a series of coincidences that point you in a new direction, or wise counsel from someone you trust. These are your spirit guides, tools God uses to gently steer you back onto His path. Ignoring them often leads to more roadblocks and greater struggles. But surrendering to God's plan isn't always easy. It requires humility to admit that you don't have all the answers and faith to trust in a plan you can't yet see. This surrender isn't passive, it's active. It's choosing to let go of control while remaining open to God's guidance. It's saying, Lord, I don't understand why this is happening, but I trust that you are leading me to something better. Balaam's story teaches us that God doesn't place roadblocks to punish us, but to protect and redirect us. His plans are far greater than anything we could imagine, but they require us to trust Him, even when the way forward isn't clear. The key is to stop fighting and start listening. Look for the signs, the nudges and the whispers that point you in a new direction. The next time you face an unexpected obstacle, pause. Instead of asking, why me? Ask, what are you protecting me from, Lord? Surrender your frustration and open your heart to the possibility that this detour might lead to a greater blessing. Because when you trust the roadblocks, you begin to see them not as barriers, but as bridges to something extraordinary. Thank you so much for staying with me through this journey of spiritual discovery. If what we've talked about resonates with you, remember that liking, sharing, and subscribing aren't just small actions, they can be life-changing. Like I mentioned earlier, your interaction is a way for me to know how these messages are impacting you. And honestly, subscribing benefits you the most because you'll get the insights and wisdom that can transform your life. So I'll say it again, hit that like button, share with those who need it, and subscribe. Your growth begins now. And I'm excited to walk this path with you